This program is for educational purposes only. The content is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any diseases, nor is it intended to take the place of your primary care physician. The statements in this program have not been evaluated by the FDA. Testimonials are shared as individual experiences, and the individual results vary and may not be typical. We do not make any claims regarding health or income. As an empowered individual, you do have options available. We are honored to have a founding father of the science of epigenetics guiding us with the best options to obtain or maintain optimal health. Dr. Joel Wallach. This program is for educational purposes only. The content is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any diseases, nor is it intended to take the place of your primary care physician. The statements in this program have not been evaluated by the FDA. Testimonials are shared as individual experiences, and the individual results vary and may not be typical. We do not make any claims regarding health or income. As an empowered individual, you do have options available. We are honored to have a founding father of the science of epigenetics guiding us with the best options to obtain or maintain optimal health. Dr. Joel Wallach. All right, let's open up the doors and hello, everybody. Welcome to Daily with Doc and Becca. And today we have Tuesday Talks with Pharmacist Ben Fuchs. So we are going to have an hour full of questions and answers where we're going beyond Dr. Google, folks, and we're going right to Pharmacist Ben as he is giving information that is not misinformation because it's tried and true. So folks, get ready and be prepared to take notes. And as you are listening to the questions that are going to be answered or asked and answered today, think of who might benefit from this message and then share this program with them. So we are live here on Zoom. So if you'd like to join us on Zoom, you're welcome to do so at DailywithDocZoom.com. That is DailywithDocZoom.com. Monday through Friday, except for holidays, from 12 to 1 Pacific time. That is 12 to 1 Pacific time, Monday through Friday, except for holidays. Well, I am super excited because every time that we have Pharmacist Ben on, he gives valuable information to the point where he just keeps on going because there's so much to share. Well, we are doing just questions today. So if you have questions and you'd like to ask them, we have several that have been emailed into us at questions@dailywithdoc.com. That is questions@dailywithdoc.com, where you also can ask questions and get a reply based on what Dr. Joel Wallach in his research recommends, and also Pharmacist Ben Fuchs, who is a advocate of Dr. Wallach's research and found the value in it himself as well. Well, if you were invited by somebody specific, make sure that you get back with them. They took the time and cared enough about you to share this program. So care enough and to thank them for sharing it with you. We also want to make sure that if you are already working with somebody, get with them if you would like to move forward with any of the recommendations that are given today. And we thank you so much for taking the time and investing in yourself, not just for the information that is shared, but also in valuing your own being, your own self-care, and making sure that your body is getting what it needs so that it can go from just barely surviving to thriving. Or if you're already thriving, let's keep you that way. So Pharmacist Ben Fuchs has been dealing with pharmacy and the skin and nutrition for decades. Let's just say decades, because he doesn't look or act as the years have put on. But I'm super excited to be able to have him as a friend, as a mentor, and especially to be able to offer this time where we as individuals, whether we're just people that want to take care of ourselves or take care of others, we're coaches, certified holistic health coaches, health advocates, folks, the list goes on and on when it comes to the value that this adds to the lives who really care. And if you are one of those and you would like to join us in this adventure, this crusade to help others, we are opening up the door and taking in applications of people that have an interest. Now, again, if you're working with somebody already, get back with them, say, hey, I want to be part of the team. If you're not, go to info, or actually email us at info@dailywithdoc.com, or you can give our team a call at 855-949-3377. So without further ado, it is my honor and privilege to bring to the screen with me the one and only amazing individual, because he just cares about people, Pharmacist Benjamin Fuchs. Welcome to Daily with Doc and Tuesday Talks with you and I. How are you?
Thank you, Becca. Good to see you. You look
you
radiant.
As well.
You look radiant.
Well, thank you. Working on lighting in this new location.
I love it. I love it. All right.
It's
So
working.
we got a lot of questions. I want to say hi to Susan. My friend Susan's on the call, I believe. Hi, Susan.
Yes, and we're actually going to take her question first.
I take her question first. Yeah. So Susan, I've known Susan for, I don't know, maybe 10, 15 years or so. I think that long. And we talk periodically. And she texted me a question this afternoon before you went on. I said, why don't you come on the Daily with Doc? I actually said, why don't you bring this person on the Daily with Doc program? She said she would try, but I don't know if she did actually do that. But I have the question in front of me. So I'm going to ask the question. I'm going to explain how you deal with this. So this is a gal who has muscular dystrophy, which is a deterioration of the muscles. In fact, muscular dystrophy is a very interesting word. Trophy refers to eating. Muscular dystrophy is when your muscles don't eat. It's a malnourishment condition, basically. Muscular dystrophy is a muscular malnourishment condition, which right away tells you that you have a great solution. You got a great strategy, which of course is nutrition and nourishment. However, as we've talked about so many times, the nexus of health and disease is at the level of the intestine for two reasons. Number one, because once the intestine becomes inflamed and things get into the bloodstream, you're off to the disease races. All disease is cell disease, and all cell disease is preceded by dirty blood. The blood is the carrier of the immune system. Now, we always talk about the immune system. We always talk about inflammation. Just quick digression. The immune system is inflammation. The immune system manifests itself by an inflammatory response. This is why inflammation or anti-inflammation is the main strategy that the medical model uses for reducing the symptoms of most chronic diseases. Most chronic diseases are inflammatory, which means they're immune, which means they're blood related. And that's true about all health challenges, chronic health challenges. That is, health challenges where the body doesn't heal. Under ordinary circumstances, the body is supposed to regenerate. That is, it's supposed to heal. Degenerative diseases is when the body does not heal, when it's supposed to heal. So something is getting in the way of the healing process. What you want to do always, and this is, we talk about it all the time, but it's easy it sounds so simple that that sometimes we take it for granted that this is the most important thing that you can do, and that is work at the level of the intestine. Number one, because of the toxicity that gets into the bloodstream, and number two, because the intestine is where nutrients are absorbed. So if you have inflammation at the level of the intestine, you're going to end up with toxicity in the blood, and that means toxicity at the levels of the cell, at the level of the cells. But you're also going to be dealing with malnourishment. It's a 1-2 punch of starvation or functional starvation plus toxicity. That's why the intestine is the key to everything. I can't say that enough. And I always feel like when I say it, it just sounds sort of cheesy. And I almost can see, even though I can't see pictures of people out there, I can almost sense people rolling their eyes when they hear about it. But when we do that, we lose a major place of power for those two reasons, toxicity and malnourishment. So working on the intestine is key. Now, muscular dystrophy is like any other chronic health challenge where the body degenerates and deteriorates, secondary to toxicity and inflammation getting into the bloodstream. So what do? Well, first of all, you stop the bleeding, as they say. You know, when you have an emergency, you're going to be dealing with the symptoms of the emergency later on, but you have an emergency, you got to stop the bleeding right away. And that's where fasting and the elimination diet come in. Fasting calms everything down, especially if somebody hasn't, for most people, most people haven't gone not a day without food, even 8 hours without food, aside from when they're sleeping. Think about it. Most people do not go even 8 hours without eating, except for when they're sleeping. So we're constantly, if we have a stream of toxicity that's getting into the body through a leaky gut, it's constantly getting in. I grew up in the 1970s. So for you guys who grew up in the 1970s, you can remember how water pollution was a big thing. You can remember, if you were around the 70s, big pipes of sewage that would dump waste into Lake Erie and various rivers and waterways. And it was a really big deal in the 1970s. They had to have the Clean Water Act, and they had the Environmental Protection Agency started in the 1970s, because this was a serious, serious problem. In fact, some of you who live in the Midwest may remember when Lake Erie caught on fire because there was so much garbage that was being put into, which was being dumped into the water, into the lake. That same graphic phenomena happens biologically in the body. And as disgusting as that visual is, that's how we want to think of it. Waste and toxicity and immune factors and bacterial secretions and food particles and little pieces of bacteria get into the bloodstream through the leaky gut. The blood is the sacred space. The blood, by the way, is literally an organ of the body. It's considered to be, a tissue of the body. It's a liquid tissue. So you may even think of it as an organ. It's a liquid tissue. It's got a tremendous amount of complexity associated with it. This complexity mandates a pure environment. The complexity of the blood is maintained by various chemical measurements or metrics like pH, acidity. And even if a drop too much acidity past where the blood can handle it gets into the bloodstream, it becomes sticky. And the blood can handle a certain amount of toxicity through the immune system protecting the blood, through changes in acid level and oxygen levels and various ways that the body manipulates the chemistry of the blood, but it can only handle so much. Once a certain level of toxicity gets into the bloodstream, you now have a condition where the blood, which goes from head to toe, goes to all the cells of the body, is now like Lake Erie in the 1970s. Okay, not that dramatic perhaps, but that's kind of how you want to think about this. Now you can imagine this tightly regulated and choreographed and precision biochemical instrument called the human body depends on cleanliness. Once you get toxicity in the blood, you can't help but have disease. You can't help but have inflammatory factors that get deposited in tissues. As the blood, by the way, is circulating through the tissues, it's being filtered, literally being filtered as it's going through the connective tissue, through the tissues, specifically the connective tissue. The connective tissue is like a sieve, like a spaghetti strainer. And the blood goes through the spaghetti strainer, and the dirt, the immune particles and the bacterial particles and the food particles stay in the connective tissue. Not all of it, because the connective tissue doesn't filter all of it, but some does. This is where autoimmune diseases come from. This is where muscular dystrophies come from. This is where skin diseases come from. This is where all health challenges come from. The deposition of toxins from the blood into the tissues starts off at the level of the intestine, it goes into the bloodstream, and then it gets deposited in the various tissues of the body. This is all health challenges. This is why it's so important to focus on the intestine. The first point on the triangle of disease. The second thing is, as I said, if the intestine is compromised, is inflamed, you're not going to be able to absorb your nutrients, because the nutrients are absorbed into the bloodstream. So get this 1-2 punch. So what you want to do when you're dealing with a chronic long-term degenerative disease, first and foremost, is work on the intestine by, number one, stopping food. Stop eating food for 1 day. 2 days is great. 3 days is even better, but at least 1 day. During that 1 day, several things that you don't eat, several things will happen. And this is to answer Susan's question about muscular dystrophy. Several things will happen. Number one, when you stop eating, the digestive system will start to clean itself out like a self-cleaning dishwasher, like running a dishwasher without dishes in it, or like running your Vitamix without food in it or particles in it. Just put soap and water in your Vitamix, it'll clean itself out. The digestive system, the digestive tract is the same way. When you stop eating, it cleans itself out. That's why people have great bowel movements after they fast, because the body's cleaning itself out. By the way, conversely, by chronic eating, you slow everything down. You impair the detoxification process by chronic eating. And we've said this before, but it bears repeating. The rumble in your tummy that we feel or we sense or we hear after we stop, or when we haven't eaten for a few hours, is a sign that the body's beginning this cleaning out process. That rumbling in your tummies it's not signaling that you're hungry. It's signaling that the body is beginning to clean itself out. The body also begins to clean itself out at the level of the cells when we stop eating in a process called autophagy. Autophagy is the body cleaning out old cells, distorted cells, dead cells, cells that aren't nutritionally, don't have the right nutrients or the right oxygen levels or the right pH. All that gets cleaned out when you fast. That's step number one. Now, what fasting does is, in addition to cleaning everything out or helping you clean everything out, it also sets the table for the next day when you start to eat. Because what happens is, if we're eating a food chronically and we're not paying attention, especially if we've been doing it for our whole lives, we don't notice the bloating. We don't notice the gas. We don't notice the discomfort. They go under the radar. The brain only notices things that happen once in a while. When things happen every day, the brain tunes it out. But by fasting, you'll reset your body's sensitivity. You'll notice things more profoundly, more dramatically when you fast. So fasting resensitizes your body to specific symptoms and you to specific symptoms. And it also improves detoxification through the digestive tract, elimination through the digestive tract, and autophagy. The third thing that fasting does is it vests you and your client in the healing protocol. You want your client to see the relationship between foods and lifestyle choices. And by fasting, they'll begin to see in the next step the impact their foods are having. This gives our customers, our clients, our patients a sense of control. And as anybody out there who's dealing with a chronic degenerative disease can attest to, especially if you're going from this doctor to that doctor, this naturopath to that naturopath, following this protocol and that protocol, it's frustrating as heck. It's tremendously disempowering. You don't know what to do. You don't know where to go. You don't understand why this is happening to you. But when you start to see the relationship between foods and symptoms, you start to get a sense of power over your disease process. So it vests your customer, your client, your patient in their healing. And it lets them know you know what you're doing, because they're going to start to see things that they never noticed before. So you fast for 1 day, ideally 2, 3 is even better, but at least 1. You start eating again. When you eat, you keep a food diary and you write down everything you eat. Don't try to use your memory. You write down everything you eat, and then you start to eliminate problem foods. This is for Susan's patient, but this is for all chronic degenerative disease. Fasting, food diary, elimination diet. Now, the good food, bad food list is helpful as a shortcut, but there's a lot of foods that are not considered bad foods that people can have a problem with. There's a lot of good foods that people can have problems with. People have problems sometimes with Brussels sprouts, sometimes with broccoli, sometimes with eggplant or with tomatoes. Sometimes people have problems with citrus fruits, seafood. The list is endless, and it has nothing. Gluten is a problem for sure, but it could be non-gluten related. So just because you're gluten-free doesn't mean you're out of the woods. You always go by your symptoms. If you still have symptoms and you're gluten-free, there's something else that's getting in. If you are a vegetarian, you only eat vegetables, you don't eat any meat, you're not out of the woods, because vegetables contain all kinds of inflammatory factors. If you're eating organic, that's got nothing to do with it. And I'm pointing this out because this is what customers will say. Oh, I'm eating organic, I'm gluten-free, I'm only eating the good foods. It doesn't matter. You go by your symptoms. Always go by your symptoms and relate them, backtrack them to something that you put inside your body. Not because food is, some kind of sacred cow of healing, but because this is how things get into the blood. Now, I should say at this point, I know I said it before, but I'll say it again. If you inject things through your skin, you can also contaminate the blood. And this is why any healthcare professional who poo-poos your concerns about injecting things through your skin just because some government authority told you to should be looked at with tremendous skepticism. You should be very concerned about sticking things into your skin, into your bloodstream through your skin. And no healthcare professional who understands the process will ever recommend that you do that without great care or without placing a lot of attention on that decision. So you do a food diary, you eliminate problem foods. Once you start to eliminate problem foods, you'll notice that you're feeling better. There's a great book called I've talked about before, called the Walls Protocol. Dr. Terry Walls. She cured herself of multiple sclerosis, MS, incurable. She cured herself simply by eliminating specific foods. In her case, it was gluten and a few other things, and fasting. Then, once you've eliminated the problem foods, you're going to start to feel better. You start working with the digestive support supplements. Youngevity's got tremendous digestive support supplements. First and foremost, for anybody who's dealing with an inflammatory or immune condition and they want to correct the digestive machinery in order to reduce their symptoms and reverse their health challenge, I-26. The I-26, and this is for Susan's patients. Susan, if you're listening, I-26 is also known as hyperimmune egg, and it's an egg powder that is derived from eggs that were laid by chickens who were inoculated to produce antibodies. So they inject the chickens with an antigen, which stimulates the production of antibodies, immune globulins, you may have heard that term. And these antibodies, which kill bacteria, are secreted into the eggs. The eggs are then laid by the chickens, and then the egg powder, the eggs are turned into egg powder, which we have is I-26, which contains all the antibodies that kill the excess bacteria. One of the main causes of leaky gut, and I'm going to assume everybody knows what that is, intestinal permeability issues or leaky gut issues, which we've been talking about. One of the main causes is bacterial overgrowth in the small intestine. Bacteria are only supposed to live in the large intestine. When bacteria live in the small intestine or proliferate in the small intestine, you get a hypergrowth or a hyperproliferation of bacteria because there's food in the small intestine. There's no food in the large intestine. There's food, there's nutritional substances in the small intestine, and this creates a medium for the bacteria to thrive and proliferate. What's worse is many people are dealing with chronic constipation, and that food just sits in the intestine, and the bacteria have plenty of time to eat the food and proliferate. Even worse, if you have a gallbladder issue, or you don't have a gallbladder, or you're not making bile sufficiently, you're going to be losing an important antibacterial liquid, an antibacterial substance. Bile kills bacteria. Same with stomach acid. If you're on Nexium or Prilosec, or if you're not making enough stomach acid, all of these, constipation, chronic constipation, low stomach acid, problems with bile, all of these are not only associated with SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, all of these are also associated with leaky gut, and they're also associated with disease states. all of them. And when you understand the mechanism now, because now you have the proliferation of bacteria, inflammation of the intestine, stuff leaking into the blood, you can see why. So making sure that you're killing those bacteria with the I-26 and then reducing or helping the body reduce the population of bacteria with stomach acid, i.e. your ultimate enzymes, which contain stomach acid, and bile, the ultimate enzymes. So in addition to I-26, you want to get your patient on your long-term chronic disease patient or your muscular dystrophy patient or your MS patient or autoimmune disease patient, whatever it is, on the ultimate enzymes. And it helps to take your ultimate enzymes with a little bit of something acid, apple cider vinegar. There's some acid in the ultimate enzymes, but it helps to take it with a little bit more acid. The enzymes need activation by acid. The next thing you want to do is you want to make sure that you're using probiotics, good bacteria. I absolutely love the Nightly Essence. And I've been talking about it for many years. Youngevity has a few different brands now, but I like the Nightly Essence the best. The Nightly Essence also has digestive enzymes. And by the way, taking digestive enzymes, your ultimate enzymes, on an empty stomach has anti-inflammatory and anti-pain properties on its own. So the ultimate enzymes are multifunctional in the sense that they'll support digestion at the level of the stomach. They'll also support acidification, helping reduce the population of bacteria in the intestine. And if you take them on an empty stomach, they have pain relieving and anti-inflammatory properties. For anybody dealing with autoimmune issues or muscular dystrophy or any other long-term chronic inflammatory issue. The next thing is Dr. Arias's liver cleanse. And I say, I'm not talking about these like one's better than the other. You want to do all of these. The Dr. Arias's liver cleanse, part of Dr. Arias's liver cleanse is a fast. But then once you start eating, once you break your fast, Dr. Arias's liver cleanse is designed to support the liver and to support bile. Remember, low bile or poorly functioning bile or sludgy bile is going to compromise the body's ability to kill bacteria in the intestine. So Dr. Arias's liver cleanse. Also, the ultimate microbiome, which is a wonderful formulation from Dr. Joanne Conaway. These are and then also the Daily Digest. These are our digestive support supplements. What's going to happen, Susan, for your patient here, for your customer, is not only are they going to start to notice relief from their symptoms, but they're going to start to notice they have better digestive health. So you're going to improve their symptoms that they're looking for improvement with, in this case, muscular dystrophy, but you're also going to improve their digestive health. And if there are other symptoms, those are going to improve too. So first thing, always, always, always go to the intestine because that's where the blood becomes contaminated. There's no chronic degenerative disease without contaminated blood. Don't just go by good food, bad food list or just by being gluten-free. There's lots of things that can cause problems. Lettuce can cause problems. Broccoli and Brussels sprouts and eggplant and fish and seafood. And there's all kinds of things that can cause problems for people. So that's why food diary is so important. Then the next thing is the blood sugar system. Just like there's no chronic degenerative disease, long-term chronic degenerative disease without dirty blood, there's also no long-term chronic degenerative disease without dysglycemia. Dysglycemia means messed up, D-Y-S, dys means messed up or dysfunctional. Glycemia is blood sugar. Glyce is sugar, emia means blood. Dysglycemia, disturbed or messed up or dysfunctional blood sugar. You notice I didn't say diabetes. Dysglycemia occurs before you're diagnosed as a diabetic. And this is important because you may have a lot of symptoms associated with disturbances in your blood sugar, and the doctor will say, well, you're normal, because he's looking for the diagnosis of diabetes, not disturbances in blood sugar. He's looking for that metric, that trigger, that threshold that determines diabetes. So with all chronic degenerative disease, assume dysglycemia. I would venture to say there's not a single American adult that doesn't have some degree of dysglycemia. There are probably a few here and there who know absolutely everything correctly to do. But for the most part, everybody, once they start to reach a certain age, is going to have a degree of dysglycemia. You can tell this by belly fat. That's a classic sign of the beginnings of dysglycemia. And as you all probably know, nobody has the same type of belly at the age of 40 or 50 that they did when they were 20 or 30. That's dysglycemia. That's how you know the prevalence, because everybody has this issue. So you start working with the blood sugar system. And when you start working the blood sugar system, the same thing's going to happen with the blood sugar system that happens with the digestive system. Not only are you going to correct the symptoms that you're looking to correct, but you're also going to correct the entire body. even if you don't notice that you have symptoms. Rebecca and Doc just finished a book called Metabolic Syndrome, which we talked about in the past. Metabolic syndrome means a bunch of different symptoms associated with one thing, in this case, metabolism. Metabolic syndrome is a bunch of symptoms that's associated with your metabolism. What's your metabolism? It's your chemistry. What's your chemistry? It's everything. So you might as well call metabolic syndrome everything syndrome. Everything syndrome means everything that could possibly go wrong is linked to this condition. Everything: high blood pressure, kidney disease, cancer, heart disease, hypertension, autoimmune issues, skin problems, dementias, movement disorders, neurological issues of all kinds. These are all secondary to dyspepsia, or problems with the digestive system, and dysglycemia, disturbances in blood sugar. So you work with the blood sugar pack, the healthy blood sugar pack. And this is one of, in addition to having great digestive products, Youngevity's got great blood sugar products, because Doc's been talking about blood sugar and metabolic issues for decades. The first Doc book that I read, the second Doc book that I read, was Hell's Kitchen. And if you want a really good book that's fascinating, not just about health, about history and sociology and chemistry and pathology, as well as health and metabolism, read Hell's Kitchen. Very easy book to read, and a lot of great information there. So you work on the blood sugar system. There's lots of ways to do that. We got the healthy blood sugar pack, of course. I always throw in the ultimate niacin into the healthy blood sugar pack. Niacin is part of what's called the glucose tolerance factor, and that's a part of the body that a molecule or complex of molecules in the body that helps the body process sugar. Niacin deficiency is also associated with skin problems, brain and neurological problems, brain problems, as well as mental health problems. Digestive issues and niacin deficiency will cause intestinal problems, and it can actually be related to leaky gut. And then ultimately, if you don't have enough niacin, or you have a shortage of niacin, it'll kill you. It's a fatal health challenge, and that means a lot of people who are niacin deficient are dealing with chronic health challenges, including ultimately death, and don't know it. Now, niacin, your body will make a certain amount of niacin. It's that important. The body will make a certain amount, but it makes a very small amount. So I always throw people on the ultimate niacin. There's also in addition to the sweeties and the ultimate niacin and the ultimate selenium and the ultimate microbiome, by the way, which is a fiber formulation that helps suck up excess sugar. There's also, the Osteomag also will have some blood sugar stabilizing properties, as will the Zinc FX, and also, for that matter, the CFX, and your Beyond Tangy Tangerine would have both zinc and vitamin C in there. There's also non-nutritional strategies for helping lower blood sugar concentration. Drinking water dilutes the blood, thereby dropping the blood concentration. Moving the body, exercising, helps shunt sugar from the bloodstream into the muscles. So after you eat a sugary meal or a bready meal or a starchy meal or something that throws off your blood sugar, drink a bunch of water, ideal with Beyond Tangy Tangerine in it, and go take a walk or get on a treadmill or do something that causes the muscles to suck up sugar from the bloodstream, which happens after you work out. Now, there's another connection here between the adrenal glands and the thyroid. I don't want to digress into that too much. You can't really work on the thyroid by itself. And this is why thyroid issues are notoriously difficult for doctors to treat. And the only thing you really get if you have a thyroid problem is Synthroid or Cytomel or levothyroxine, something along those lines. That doesn't help your thyroid. That just gives your body some hormones so it can do the work. You can't really do anything for the thyroid directly. But hypothyroidism is behind chronic disease, behind digestive problems, behind blood sugar issues, behind hormonal issues. So you got to work on the thyroid eventually, and the way you do that is by working on the first 2 points of the triangle of disease, the digestive system and the blood sugar system. This is also true for people who are dealing with hormone issues, whether it's women who are dealing with estrogen dominance, which is where you have too much estrogen, and estrogenic symptoms include inflammation, include immune problems. It's no accident that most autoimmune patients are women. Most chronic disease patients in general are women. So that's because of the hormone estrogen. You can't work on it's very difficult to work on estrogen by itself, but if you work on your blood sugar, that will help support estrogen metabolism. If you work on detoxification, eliminating foods through the intestine, eliminating waste through the intestine, as well as the bile system, you'll also support estrogen metabolism. For men who are dealing with low T, low testosterone, and some of the problems associated with it, with low testosterone, focus on blood sugar and insulin resistance. I didn't talk too much about insulin resistance, but that's associated with dysglycemia, disturbances in blood sugar. So low T, low testosterone levels, erectile dysfunction, and lack of drive, and problems with weight gain. All of these can be related to insulin resistance following testosterone issues. There's a lot of guys out there who are looking for testosterone support. They'll go to the doctor and get testosterone pellets or testosterone creams or some kind of testosterone medication, or even use nutritional supplements for testosterone. But as long as you have insulin resistance and dysglycemia, you're going to have disturbances in your male hormones as well as your female hormones. So these are all places that our friend with muscular dystrophy can work. The good news is, Susan, and if the patient is on this call, is you can notice results quickly. And indeed, if you don't notice results quickly, fine tune. You have to fine tune, because you should be noticing results within 24 to 48 hours of not eating if you understand the mechanism of action here. So last thing I'll tell you is this is part of the Healthy Start Pack, so I'm not going to mention it. I didn't mention it specifically as part of the mechanism, but fats are very important as anti-inflammatories. In fact, your ultimate EFAs are nature's aspirin. And similar to the ultimate EFAs, not essential like the ultimate EFAs are essential, are the endocannabinoids, the hemp FX, as well as the CM cream. The CM cream, CM stands for cetyl myristoyl, and the endocannabinoid, or the hemp FX, which contains cannabinoids, are both part of the fat system. And these fats, which are technically called lipid mediators, lipid means fat, mediators means they cause something to happen, are associated with inflammation. By using your CM cream, or for that matter, topical CM, and your hemp FX and your ultimate EFAs, you can support the body's immune system and anti-inflammatory system. This is true for all inflammatory issues, whether they're inflammatory issues associated with autoimmunity or immunity or degenerative disease, or if they're just inflammatory issues associated with back pain or dental pain or headaches. Endocannabinoids, which are lipid mediators, the CM cream, which contains a lipid mediator, cetyl myristoyl, as well as your ultimate EFAs, are nature's aspirin, natural anti-inflammatories. And those can be added into the program, although the ultimate EFAs are going to be part of the Healthy Blood Sugar Pack and the Healthy Digestion. We don't have a Healthy Digestion Pack. We should have a Healthy Digestion Pack.
Yes, we do.
We do have a Healthy Digestion Pack. Okay, I didn't know that. So then the ultimate EFAs are going to be part of that as well. And that's for muscular dystrophy. If you don't notice results within a very, very short period of time, tweak, fine tune. Okay?
So you covered a lot right there.
Yes.
Including, no, I think you're very thorough and you keep it so that it's simple and easy to understand.
It should be simple. It should be simple. This should all be simple. There's a lot of stuff, like you say, but it shouldn't be complicated, like you need a master's degree or an advanced degree to understand it. It should be very simple, although, like you say, there's a lot of stuff there. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Becca.
Well, don't apologize. I mean, you're providing some amazing information. We do have a question in regards to Hashimoto's, and you did mention thyroid.
Yes, Hashimoto's. You want to talk about Hashimoto's, or do you have a question?
Well, what would you add to what you just
Yes, let me talk about Hashimoto's, okay? Let's talk about Hashimoto's real quick. Remember, we're simplifying here. Everything should be reduced down to its simplest, most basic mechanism, which is stuff getting into the blood. All disease is cell disease. All cell disease is preceded by dirty blood. So how does that fit into Hashimoto's? Hashimoto's thyroiditis is an autoimmune disease of the thyroid. Hypothyroidism, poorly functioning thyroid, can happen from a few different reasons, but the most common reason is when the immune system attacks the thyroid. Like all autoimmune diseases, there are 100+ autoimmune diseases, and they keep finding new ones. or they keep finding diseases that they didn't know were related to autoimmunity that are now related to autoimmunity. I was just reading a couple of weeks ago how now they think cardiovascular disease, heart disease, which is the #1 killer, #1 cause of death in this country and around the world, they're now associating that with an autoimmune issue. So autoimmune diseases, there's about 100 to 120, 130 of them, something along those lines. There's about 40 million people or so who deal with autoimmune diseases. 1 out of 9 or 1 out of 10 people have an autoimmune disease. They're a big problem. Here's the thing about autoimmune disease. While there are 100 plus autoimmune diseases that affect the nerves or affect the bone or affect the kidneys or affect the liver or affect the muscles or affect the nerves, they affect different parts of the body, affect the skin, affect skin cells and pigment cells, and on and on and on. They're all the same thing. It doesn't matter where the autoimmune disease is. If I could put that on my epitaph, on my gravestone, I would do it. It doesn't matter where the autoimmune disease is. You don't need a specialist. Has anybody ever had their autoimmune disease reversed or cured by a specialist? Never happened. You don't need a specialist because it's a general condition, not a special condition. All autoimmune diseases happen the same way. And whether it affects the nerves or the joints or the connective tissue or the kidneys or blah, 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 wherever, it doesn't matter from a reversal point of view. The mechanism of autoimmunity involves, like all chronic diseases, toxicity getting into the blood, that toxicity being dumped into the tissues, whether it's the connective tissue or the kidneys or the pancreas or the thyroid or the joints or wherever, and then the immune system attacks those tissues. The immune system sees the distorted tissues and the immune factors that have gotten into the bloodstream, the activating factors that have gotten into the bloodstream, as the enemy. And it now initiates an attack on the organs where these immune factors are deposited, and the thyroid is one of the more common ones. So Hashimoto's disease is like all autoimmune diseases, no matter where it's manifesting, where it's showing up. It's like all autoimmune diseases. It's the result of toxicity getting into the blood. I know I've said it's like we've been talking for 40 minutes. I've said it over and over and over and over again. It's important that we understand this. It's about the blood. It's about toxicity in the blood, which in turn means it's about toxicity getting into the blood through the intestine. Now with Hashimoto's, you got an added wrinkle, because while toxicity gets into the bloodstream to cause the Hashimoto's, to cause the hypothyroidism, to cause the immune attack on the thyroid, because the thyroid gland controls the intestine, now you have a sluggish intestine. You have a poorly functioning intestine. You have more problems associated with intestinal function, which means more leaky gut, which means more toxic blood, which means more autoimmunity. And you get this downward spiral when the thyroid is affected, because the thyroid controls everything. Thyroid hormone makes skin cells skin, makes muscle cells muscle, makes bone cells bone, makes heart cells heart, makes liver cells liver. All cells do what they do under the control of thyroid hormone. You can see why the thyroid is so darn important. Without thyroid hormone, every single system in the body operates suboptimally, including the digestive system. Dr. Broda Barnes wrote a book in the late 1970s, early 1980s, 50 years ago, 45, 50 years ago, called Hypothyroidism, the Unsuspected Illness. And in the book, he listed a whole bunch of things that were associated with hypothyroidism. But I'm telling you, you don't have to worry about that, because everything is associated with hypothyroidism. Because hypothyroidism is the tip of the triangle of disease, and it's the jumping off point to everything else. So Hashimoto's is an autoimmune disease of the thyroid. Like all autoimmune diseases, it's got to be backtracked to the intestine, to dysbiosis, disturbances in bacteria, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, leaky gut. And I forgot to mention this, one of the biggest causes of leaky gut are fried oils and fried and processed oils. Very, very pro-inflammatory for the level of the intestine. So, Doc's been talking about oils and the problem with oils for decades. And one of the main reasons why he's spot on is because of the inflammatory effect oils have on the intestine, exacerbating leaky gut. And if you understand how leaky gut leads to everything else, you could see French fries are a leading cause of death and disease. And it's not just French fries, but it's any fried fats. I mean, if you go to a fair these days, you'll get to enjoy deep fried Snickers bars. No lie, deep fried Twinkies and deep fried pasta and deep fried everything. Why do you think we love fat so much? It's because we're missing fat, which is why when you supplement with your ultimate EFAs, you'll start to notice less fat cravings. So for Hashimoto's thyroid, guess what? This is how much stuff the doctor has at his disposal to help you with. Zero, nothing. They cannot do anything for hypothyroidism except give you thyroid hormone. In fact, there aren't even a lot of nutritional supplements, really, because the thyroid is secondary to cortisol, to the adrenal glands, and to the blood sugar system, to the digestive system. That being said, if you have an iodine deficiency, you'll end up with a goiter, like a bit, which we don't see that much anymore, although I have a friend in Russia who I talk to periodically, and he's got a big old goiter, so it does happen, usually in third world countries or in places where they don't have access to fish. Iodine is very important for the production of thyroid hormone. Iodine is very important for all the glands of the body. The adrenal glands, the female reproductive glands, the breasts are extremely dependent on iodine. So iodine is important for a lot more than just the thyroid. And you'll get iodine in your Ocean's Gold. You'll get some iodine in the Fucoid Z. And then seafood is the best source of iodine. Iodine is not really found in terrestrial plants. Iodine is an ocean mineral largely. So seaweeds and seafood are going to be your best sources of iodine. Vitamin A can also be helpful for the thyroid. The mineral, the ultimate selenium, also has a role to play, and as does the ultimate MSM. I think we're calling it the ultimate MSM. Is that what they're calling it now? I forgot what they're calling it. MSM Ultra, right?
MSM Ultra.
Yeah, MSM Ultra, right. Those can both help support the production of thyroid hormone as well. So work on, again, all autoimmune diseases. Hashimoto's is an autoimmune disease. It doesn't matter that it's the thyroid. Clean the blood out. And then also, I should tell you, there's a process of blood cleansing called chelation. Chelation is when you magnetically attract poisons out of the blood, toxins out of the blood, and plant-derived minerals are one of nature's best chelating agents. Plant-derived minerals, detoxifying agents. So make sure you're using your plant-derived minerals, whether it's your Beyond Tangy Tangerine or the Mineral Toddy or whatever it is. Plant-derived minerals help, as do all vegetables for that matter help. And then the ultimate selenium has chelating properties, and the CFX has chelating properties. The CFX, which is our proprietary vitamin C product. And those all have blood cleansing benefits.
And all of these products that Pharmacist Ben has specifically mentioned can be purchased through your longevity distributor. So get back with your distributor and say, hey, I need blank, blank, blank. Or I have this going on. What's going to be the best option based on Dr. Wallach and Pharmacist Ben's recommendations? Okay. You can even take and copy this Zoom, this recording from YouTube, from Rumble, from wherever. You can share it with people through Spotify. We're kind of everywhere. And I don't have that list in front of me, but share it with those you know, you love, and especially with your health coach, and let them know that this is what you want, because you are an empowered individual. And that's what this program is all about, is giving you more tools in your toolbox to be able to make choices because you know what's available. And we only make recommendations of the products that we mention here because we know they work and it's not fractionated. So get back to the person that shared this program with you and let them know what it is that you are dealing with and what you can take, and ask, what can I take to support my body? Now, again, products don't cure anything. We don't cure anything, but your body itself can do some amazing stuff.
God cures. God cures. Using the raw materials that we're supposed to be getting our food. Look, supplements, the word supplement means you're supplementing your diet. These things should be in food. And I wish we lived in the Garden of Eden where, you could just pick the cherry off the cherry tree or the apple off the apple tree and just eat it and be nourished. But we don't live in that world. And so supplementing your diet with nutrients is not only a must, but it's obvious that you get benefits because there's so many people that we've seen ourselves, everybody in longevity, Becca, myself, everybody who's doing longevity, change the course of their disease process and indeed change the course of their lives by getting on the Healthy Start Pack. And that's why we do this. That's why we're so dedicated to doing this. And everybody out there who's selling longevity, you know exactly what I'm talking about. How good does it feel when somebody tells you, hey, I got on the Healthy Start Pack and all of a sudden I feel good. All of a sudden I'm weaning myself off my meds. All of a sudden my skin is clearing up, whatever it is. How good does that feel? We hear that story, those stories all the time. And that's because of the power of supplementing your diet with nutritional supplements. But we're not doing it. And the supplements aren't doing it. The body's doing it. We're just giving the body what it needs to do its work.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, we have a couple hands up. Let's go ahead and get to questions. And Bill, what question do you have for Pharmacist Ben today?
Thank you, Ben.
Hey.
Regarding, we know that using vapes to stop smoking are dangerous because those oils are going down into the lungs.
Yes.
So the question is, using medical cannabis with the resin, is that creating similar?
Medical cannabis, smoking it is like smoking anything else. Your lungs are not supposed to have smoke in them. If you could ever see the lungs of a smoker, you probably wouldn't, not you, but whoever.
Okay, but that resin, same thing?
Yes. You look, Bill, I never met you before. I don't think I've ever seen you before. Your name's Bill Gebhardt? Right. Yeah. Yep. So, Bill, you look like you've been around the block a couple times. So you ever see a bong?
Oh, yes.
You know what a bong looks like after
you,
that's exactly what smoking does to your lungs, or a pipe or something like that. All that resin, it's terrible. You know, we have this idea that marijuana is some kind of benign substance. It's not. Not only that, but now that the governments are involved in growing and licensing and protecting marijuana growers, there's pesticides that people are smoking. And now marijuana has pesticides in it. It didn't used to have pesticides. Now it's got pesticides. So you're smoking that as well. Smoking anything is not smart. It is really one of the poorest health choices somebody can make, is to smoke anything, in my opinion. Now, if you're depressed or you have chronic pain and marijuana is helping you, you do what you have to do, but it's not a good thing for your lungs. Absolutely not. And your blood.
Chronic pain.
Yeah, if you have chronic pain, I don't know, you could try to eat it, I suppose. And you can also try our Hemp FX if you haven't done that. Or you might want to see what the chronic pain is due to. What I would do for chronic pain is I would look for flare-ups. Flare-ups are always your best friend. Why? Because a flare-up gives you real-time information. And people who have chronic pain issues, whether it's joint pain issues or post-surgical pain issues or female health pain issues like endometriosis or fibromyalgia, will notice their conditions flare up. They get worse. Flare-ups are your best friend. And if you're doing a food diary, which is a good idea to do, and you can backtrack your flare-ups, and you can trace your flare-ups back to your food diary, you'll find certain food choices will make inflammation worse. There's a condition that scientists call postprandial inflammation. Postprandial means after eating. Prandial means to eat, or a meal. Prandial refers to meals. So postprandial inflammation is post-eating or post-meal inflammation. It happens to everybody. The immune system becomes activated when you eat anything. Think about it. You're eating something. The bad guys are getting into the body. So the defense system kicks in after anything, let alone McDonald's or junk food or fast food. Anything will make your immune system awaken. If your immune system and your inflammatory system is already activated, and now you eat a food that adds to that activation, that immune activation, that inflammation, that can tip you over a critical threshold where you'll start to feel pain. So for chronic pain issues, look for flare-ups. They will give you real-time information on what's getting into the system. And as I said earlier, fat lipid mediators are a great strategy for reducing chronic pain, as is stopping that stream of toxicity, that Lake Erie-like sewage that's getting into the bloodstream through the intestine, through a leaky gut. Okay?
All right. Thank you so much.
And thank you,
Ben.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, Bill, that's a question we have not had before on our show. So thank you, Bill, for bringing that question. Greatly appreciate new information, as there's so many things going on, Ben. We want to meet people where they're at. Let's go to AJ with the next question.
Pharmacist Ben, how are you today?
I'm good. Good to see you, AJ. We got to do another pharmacist bite here one of these days.
We need to, because we got about 30 more questions and we only got 3 more minutes.
We'll do one tonight or tomorrow, and we'll pull out some questions.
Okay, so I guess we'll do this other one tonight then, and then this one that came on YouTube. Christopher is wondering about intermittent issues with his swallowing, if that can be caused by having bone spurs in the neck or pressing on nerves.
It's likely an inflammatory condition that involves nerves. There's a lot of nerves that are involved in the swallowing mechanism. It's kind of a complicated process, swallowing is. And in fact, when you do have neural issues or sometimes brain issues, you might have an issue swallowing. So that's not a primary condition, that's a secondary condition. And we want to distinguish these primary conditions from secondary conditions. The primary conditions are the triangle of disease: the digestive system, blood sugar system, adrenal thyroid complex. Those are always primary. Then things happen secondary to that. So what I would be doing for this gentleman is I would be assuming there's some kind of inflammation that's going on in there. I want to know, why is there inflammation? Why is the blood toxic? Inflammation should, unless you have a trauma, all systemic inflammatory conditions should be backtracked to the toxic blood. The blood this is where the immune factors live. There's no immune factors outside the blood, except for in the intestine and the digestive tract. So the immune factors are in the blood. They get out of the blood and they go into the tissues, but in the blood is where they're carried. So you want to focus on blood toxicity, and that's all the digestive support plus blood sugar support that we talked about. By the way, blood sugar is inflammatory. Elevated blood sugar is inflammatory. So when you lose the ability to control your sugar, which is what happens when you have type 2 diabetes, or for that matter, type 1 diabetes, sugar levels build up, and sugar itself is inflammatory. And insulin, for that matter, is inflammatory. And when you're secreting lots of insulin, that can exacerbate inflammation. So consider it an inflammatory condition, blood toxicity, either full-blown toxicity from the intestine or sugar toxicity.
Thank you, Pharmacist Ben.
And look for flare-ups.
All right. Thank you, AJ, for bringing that question. Now, Ben, I have a question. Hopefully you can answer it real quick. The question is, have you ever had anyone get hives from being in the sun?
Okay, that's a great question. So there are people who get hives from the sun. There are people who get hives from a warm shower. There are people who get hives from their bra strap being too tight or their belt being too tight. There are people who will actually, I talked about this before, there's a condition called dermographia where you can actually sign your name on your skin and you'll get a raised hive-like lesion in the shape of your signature. What the heck is that about? Why would somebody get hives from the sun? Why would somebody get hives from their bra strap being too tight? Why would somebody get hives from just touching their skin? Some people get hives from perfume. Some people get hives from cologne. Some people get hives from skincare products. What's going on here? Well, what are hives? Hives are a way the body protects itself. What we call hives is the end result of toxicity in the blood, especially a toxin that everybody's heard of, but nobody quite understands as well as they should. You ever have hay fever or pollen allergies, Rebecca?
Yes.
Right? You get runny nose, you get runny eyes. What do you take when you get a runny nose and runny eyes? What kind of medicine do you take?
Most people take an antihistamine.
An antihistamine, right? So what does that tell you? If you're taking an antihistamine to control the symptoms of hay fever, obviously that hay fever must have something to do with what? Histamine, right? Histamine is made by the body. Histamine is made in special cells called mast cells, M-A-S-T, mast cells. These mast cells they're in the blood, they're in the connective tissues, they're in the intestine. Histamine is also made by bacteria in the intestine. Histamine from bacteria in the intestine and histamine from mast cells will leak into the bloodstream under conditions of leaky gut and toxicity. There are also foods that contain histamine. Citrus fruits can activate a histamine response. Shellfish can activate a histamine response. In fact, a lot of people think they're allergic to shellfish and they won't touch glucosamine or glucogel because it's from shellfish. And it's not the shellfish at all. It's the histamine that the shellfish is inducing, histamine response that the shellfish is inducing. Leftovers can be sources of histamine. Yogurt and fermented foods can be sources of histamine. These are good foods. And they're all sources of histamine or activators of histamine. Avocados can activate a histamine response. Once histamine is in the bloodstream, either through a leaky gut, through SIBO and a leaky gut, through ingesting histamine-containing or histamine-activating foods, or from chronic activation of mast cells, which follows toxicity into the blood. That's a condition called MCAS. And in the long tradition of Dr. Wallach and Longevity and myself being way ahead of the curve and talking about things that everybody hears about in 10 years, I'm now going to tell you what you're going to hear about in the next 5 to 10 years. It's called mast cell activation syndrome, MCAS. And mast cell activation syndrome, which is still very little known today, but it's going to be known a lot more because it's a real thing. I used to make a medicine for mast cell activation syndrome called cromolyn for women who had pelvic inflammatory disease, because histamine and mast cell activation syndrome is associated with pelvic problems in women. With cancer, mast cell activation syndrome and histamine is associated with cancer. All autoimmune diseases can be linked to histamine and mast cell activation syndrome. This is one of the ways dirty blood shows up, is as histamine in the blood and as mast cell activation syndrome. So if you're out in the sun, or you're taking a shower, or you're wearing a tight clothes or a tight belt, or you're putting on cosmetics, or it's things that should never cause a reaction, but you're getting a reaction, you got a histamine problem and likely a mast cell problem. How do you deal with it? A triangle of disease. You go back to the triangle. You work on leaky gut. You stabilize the bacteria with your I-26. You lay off a histamine-containing or histamine-inducing foods. You just control the toxicity or the cleanliness of the blood at the level of the intestine. It's very simple. So if somebody who's got that kind of dramatic condition where they're getting rashes or hives when they're out in the sun, or from wearing tight clothes or something where really you shouldn't have a problem, but you do, guaranteed you're dealing with a histamine mast cell issue following leaky gut and dysbiosis or SIBO.
All right. Do you have time for one more question?
Sure.
All right, let's go to Albert. Albert, go ahead and unmute yourself. What question do you have for Pharmacist Ben today?
Hello, Albert.
Hi, Pharmacist Ben. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Albert from South Africa, Johannesburg.
That's it.
Is that where you're from? Johannesburg.
Yeah, yes, just outside Pretoria.
Right.
To the west of Pretoria.
Do you have giraffes in your backyard? You have giraffes in your backyard?
That's right. Yeah, Jeffrey and Marty.
Jeffrey and Monty. All right, cool. So what's going on?
Pharmacist Ben.
Yes.
All right, so I've got someone who's got extreme itching around the eyes. So the eyelids itch to the point where they almost scratch their eyes out, and below the eyes. So itching. Now what you've just said, I think what you've just said has given a lot of pointers to what the problem is.
100%. Itching is a classic. Itching, by the way, is called urticaria, is the fancy name for itching. And urticaria is always, always, always associated with an immune response. Now, the immune response can have to do with bile. It can have to do with the kidneys. But it most often is going to involve this MCAS histamine connection and leaky gut.
Exactly. I think you hit the nail on the head before I asked the question.
All right. We aim to please.
So, yes. So,
all right. Fantastic.
So thank you very much for that. And when you mentioned fermented foods, it's not too long ago that they started using fermented foods, and that's when the eyes started itching.
Absolutely, could be related to histamine. That would be the first thing I would think about. And keep in mind, as I said earlier, this histamine in foods is not, it's also in good foods. Cheese and strawberries and seafood and, you know, pineapples. These are all foods that can trigger a histamine response. And who would think that, you know, spinach is a problem, or papaya or citrus fruits, but they can be because of this. So you're not out of the woods with the good food, bad food list. That's just a starting point.
Okay,
All right.
great. And
Okay.
thanks again for sharing all your magnificent wisdom with us. We
Thank
really
you.
appreciate it.
I appreciate that, Albert. And AJ, give me a shout so we can do another Bright Bite. We can answer some more questions.
Yes, thank you
Great.
so much, Pharmacist Ben, for taking the time to be here with us today. And we will be back on Friday, folks, with more Pharmacist Ben on Pharmacist Friday on Daily with Doc. So make sure that you join us then as well. And if you're not able to join us live, best part about it is all of our replays are available through our different channels with Critical Health News or Daily with Doc. All you have to do is Google Daily with Doc and Becca. You will find us wherever it is that you like to listen. So thank you, Pharmacist Ben. And if I could get
Thank
the
you, Becca.
co-hosts on the screen with us,
Hey,
we
can
could
I
not
want to
do
read
this
one.
without-
I want to read one thing here. Can I, do I have a second?
Go ahead.
Okay, I read
Go
this
for it.
today, and I thought it would be really appropriate for longevity folks on the call today. Let me see. Hopefully, I can find it in my phone. This is called the Prayer of Saint Francis. Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me bring love. Where there is offense, let me bring pardon. Where there is discord, let me bring union. Where there is error, let me bring truth. Where there is doubt, let me bring faith. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but that's generally the idea. We are the good guys here. And that's our job, is to be the good guys. And where there's pain, we want to bring solace. And where there's illness, we want to bring healing. And when there's fear, we want to bring confidence. And that's what longevity is all about. And if you are vibing to this message of helping make the world a better place through health and through information about health, you're one of us. And if you're on this call from somebody who invited you, please think about joining the team. We need business builders. We need people who want to share and spread this message. We can help you understand supplementation. We can help you understand health. We can help you understand business. You can make some money, and you can make a huge, huge difference in the world. Don't underestimate the power we all have as individuals to change the trajectory of of individual lives as well as the planet itself.
Absolutely. Not only are we changing lives through better health, but also better finances, folks. So if you're looking for just a little bit added income or a lot added income, then you are in the right place, because that's another thing that we are offered by longevity. As we are helping others, we are getting a thank you check from longevity for doing so. And we welcome you to join us in doing that, even if it's just enough to cover your cost. We have so many people that, oh, I don't want a thank you check. I'm not doing this for the money. Well, folks, the more we earn, the more we can give and help others. So whether you're doing it for the money or not, you're able to help others. And I love that, Pharmacist Ben. It's changed my life in many ways, and I'm very thankful for it, and absolutely very thankful for having you and as part of my quote unquote upline and mentors, and then having our team, which we have on our screen with us. We've got some of the team, a very, very small fraction of the team, but these are the people that have stepped up and said, hey, use me. I want to be used to be able to help others and make that difference. We have Marilyn, who is using her gifts of typing, putting that into the chat. So for those of you who are here live with us, I hope you had that chat option open, because you were able to see what she was putting in there as dictation of what was being said within the program, and putting that recommendation into print. So you could do a screenshot, take a picture, or whatever it is, so that you can take it and get the products needed based on what was recommended. We have Ruth Ellen, who is helping us by using her skills also of helping others, and technical skills and computer skills, in using those skills into the position of executive production manager. So she helps me, as I'm the producer, she's the production manager, and making sure everything goes smoothly. And we have AJ on with us today, who is our production manager, who really has made a huge impact on being able to stream and reach more people around the world using his technical skills, and a lot of things that we've got going on, folks, that are going to be announced and released shortly. So super excited that we are able to bring our talents together, working together to help more people. That's what it's all about. The more people you help, the happier you'll be.
I have a message.
Because I know.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Ruth Ellen.
Oh, it told me. Sorry. I'm used to using two computers. Oh my gosh. Okay, Donna Flores says, Pharmacist Ben, you are awesome in all caps, and thank you.
Thank you. God bless everybody. And thank you, Becca and AJ.
Yes,
Give me a
thank
call
you.
later. Ruth Ellen, Marilyn, Albert, wherever you are. Thank you, everybody. Bye.
All right. Blessings to all. Until next time. Actually, tomorrow. Bye for now. This program is for educational purposes only. The content is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any diseases, nor is it intended to take the place of your primary care physician. The statements in this program have not been evaluated by the FDA. Testimonials are shared as individual experiences, and the individual results vary and may not be typical. We do not make any claims regarding health or income. As an empowered individual, you do have options available. We are honored to have a founding father of the science of epigenetics guiding us with the best options to obtain or maintain optimal health. Dr. Joel Wallach. This program is for educational purposes only. The content is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any diseases, nor is it intended to take the place of your primary care physician. The statements in this program have not been evaluated by the FDA. Testimonials are shared as individual experiences, and the individual results vary and may not be typical. We do not make any claims regarding health or income. As an empowered individual, you do have options available. We are honored to have a founding father of the science of epigenetics guiding us with the best options to obtain or maintain optimal health. Dr. Joel Wallach.